much kind of to do for me.
Yeah, so we'll write some tests, and that'll be that part is gonna suck because tests always suck, but we'll make it work.
Yeah, but just so you know that that's what I'm coming to this with.
Definitely. We're not starting from scratch though, fortunately. So there are already a lot of tests in place, so we'll be able to borrow a lot of that.
In here.
Yeah. And so we'll be able to kind of to come in and figure out what we want things to be, and then we can we'll talk through the process of testing and everything. Let's see, getting a tweet put together.
How do we have conflicts on this?
I think there may have been a fix that got put in.
Oh, you know what? It's probably those linting fixes. No, that was to the story. That was to the story repo, not to the API repo.
Maybe. What is it, if you do the resolve? What does it show you?
Oh, there we go.
Oh, it's just stuff that for some reason it thinks shouldn't be there. Let's not worry about that just yet, I think.
Yeah.
We can tackle that later on. Okay, so we have effectively tweeted. And we're underway. So let's start by. Oh wait, are we out of?
Huh?
Okay, so to kind of recap what we need to do today, the most critical thing is that we need to handle the case where there's somebody who has bought something from our swag store or created a Shopify customer account before they contributed to Gatsby, because that would cause the create contributor call to fail currently, because create Shopify customer can't manage. It doesn't work right now the way that it's set, because that mutation that starts on line 41, this mutation doesn't work when you already have a customer created. So we're going to need to catch that error, and then we need to run a customer update, or actually we just need to get the customer's ID and add that to Prisma. Because if the customer already exists, we're already doing the label or the tag addition. We set that part up, so that part doesn't really need to be managed. This is okay, but we should refactor this, because now the tags come out of the discount code array at the thing that we created at the top, like the constant.
Mm-hmm.
So we would want to. We need to write a thing that will actually check their contribution account again, or their contribution count against this constant, and pull out those tags instead of hard coding it the way that we've done thus far, which will allow us to not feel dirty. And then once that is done, we'll need to check what the error message is that we get back, because right now we just swallow that error silently. So we have a catch, or if a response errors, and then we don't do anything with it. So I think what we what we probably want to do here is like a try
Which one?
catch. Right now it's on line 71. We just like if response.errors, and then we don't do anything. So my guess is we should see what logs out there and just see what happens. And if we get, actually, yeah, maybe we can just do that console.log and see what comes out. And assuming that gives us something useful, then we can handle that. We might have to try catch because it might throw.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so do you want to start with the refactor of the tags, or do you want to start with catching errors?
Let's start with the tags.
And so we can probably pull a lot of this out of the logic that we did for the finding new tags.
This return code status.
Yeah. Oh, I wonder if we can orders and contribution count. And then with this one, we feed in.
For an existing. Or no, this would be for non-existing.
Yeah, and then we pass in. So in this case, well, actually, we could just pass in.
Orders could just be
an empty array.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to make that not super confusing, because it feels a little bit like a code smell to just pass in an empty array to like overcome our existing API. Maybe what we could do instead is on line 80, where we turn the array into an array of just the discount codes. We could move that out to where it's called. So to wherever we're calling return code status now, we could move that out. And then instead of passing in orders, we would pass in the contribution count and then existing tags or existing codes. Or hold on a second. Is the return code status is not giving us the tags. That's giving us our discount codes. So what we actually need is what's on line 70 here.
This 170?
Yeah, because that shows us the earned codes and then gives us back the tags.
Yeah.
But then we still need to figure out what codes they need, which means that we have to filter the. So it feels a little bit like we might want to refactor to make that more of a given the contribution count for this user, give me back the codes and tags, and then in missing tags we would get like existing orders or used tags and then do a comparison there. Because right now I feel like we're doing it a little bit junkily. What do you think?
Okay, so this is one that will only need to get run if a contributor exists or if a Shopify customer exists.
Correct.
So I agree that we could pull this out. If we could just pull this out to be more of a utility where it doesn't matter if a Shopify customer exists or not.
Yeah, because there are two steps that we're doing here.
So this is defining, no.
Well, so what this one is doing is it's getting us the discount codes that they should have, and then once we get the codes that they should have,
No, maybe we should separate this out more. Maybe there should just be the codes that they should have, because this right now not only returns the codes they should have, it returns whether or not those codes are used. So maybe we just need to separate that out more.
Yeah. Well, actually, hold on, because so maybe we should look at what the actual data is that's coming back. So the earned codes is we put in their orders and their contribution count. If we go up to where return code status is declared, we get the
used codes,
and we get so we filter down to just the ones where their contribution count is greater than or equal to the threshold, and then we map that and we say whether or not it's used. Mm-hmm. And so I think what we could do is this map that could be moved out into the add new tags, because that determines whether or not it was used. And that way what we're doing instead is the utility function is give me everything that the contributor is qualified for. And then do we use it more than once? Because we'll have
add tags to customer or return
the return code status.
We use it twice. Get missing tags for an existing. And
then get Shopify discount codes, which
also for an existing.
So we
need to pull out the part of this that's applicable to both an existing Shopify customer and one that's not.
Yeah, and I'm actually wondering if maybe we duplicated some stuff here, because it looks like we're duplicating efforts by having get Shopify discount codes.
We're not using it anywhere.
Well, we export it to the resolvers. And so what I'm wondering is if maybe where it's declared in Shopify GraphQL, the other use of return code status, maybe that should use the Shopify discount codes. Because yeah, so I feel like we may have just kind of created a little bit of spaghetti that we can clean up here.
Okay, so this should use get Shopify discount codes. Which makes sense because this is for an existing Shopify customer. And then, okay, get Shopify discount codes returns.
Just the straight output.
It's the exact same thing.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if...
I'm going to open this. Can I feel like I've only done this accidentally.
You have to like drag it all the way to the right.
No, I mean opening two different instances of it.
Yeah, now yeah.
Yeah, there. Okay.
So
where are we? Here.
Right. Okay.
So this should be
And so, yeah, so on line 164, we're just duplicating the effort of getting the Shopify customer.
Yeah.
And so we can drop that and then get, oh, but wait,
But the
because
tags,
we need the tags. And so get Shopify customer tags. Can you flip over to the resolvers in one of your panels so that we can look at how these are used? Because we may have just like created fragility that we don't need.
mm-hmm.
So in the where do we actually call get Shopify customer tags? Okay. And the get Shopify discount codes. So maybe yeah, maybe the problem here is that we just need to do like a get Shopify customer, and then the object that comes back we just return like customer.tags and customer.codes instead of having like separate calls that make separate get Shopify customer calls.
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems to me like we've kind of we've slightly overcomplicated this, and it's gonna turn into a problem for us elsewhere. And then are we in Shopify GraphQL? Are we exporting the get Shopify customer?
We don't have it. Yeah, there.
Okay, so we have it, but we don't export it. And so that just returns our orders and tags. And if we have that, I feel like we should also cache this if we're calling it multiple times.
So you're talking about returning codes out of here.
Not necessarily, because if we get the orders back, then because there are like several things happening. The first one is we've got the tags.
Wait, so you think, actually I see. Export this. Get Shopify customer.
Mm-hmm.
Get rid of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then returning the codes from there, or the tags from there.
In this case, and so probably breaking that into like a const customer equals, and then we could, just return. Perfect. So that simplifies that. And then for the discount codes, what we would be doing is internally we would call in the get discount codes, we get the Shopify customer, and then
sorry, I was just cleaning this up.
Yes, please do.
Now looking where?
So now we're looking at the get Shopify discount codes.
Where it's used.
And so in this case, where it's used, we have the Shopify customer ID and the contribution count. And then in create Shopify customer, we don't call it. So where do we have a duplicate call to return. Oh, that's get missing tags is the one. And then we call the return. Don't we call return codes? Yeah, return code status on line 170 there. So what we're missing is that the code status is not returning the So I think, okay, so here's what I'm thinking. I think what we need is a way to just say, I have this many contributions. What discount codes does that qualify me for? Because that way we don't need customer status for that.
Get earned codes.
It could, yes, it could be get earned codes, and it should just run for a like 5 contributions, give me every discount code that matches that. And so this is just going to be the same logic of return code status, but it's going to skip the part where we map against their existing orders.
We don't need used codes. We can rewrite this, but we need to compare contribution count against discount code constant.
Mm-hmm. And I think you can literally take lines 172 to 176, and I think that's the whole function. Yep. I think Prettier will get the rest of that for you.
Huh?
I think Prettier will get the rest of that for you when you save.
There you go.
But yeah, so I think that so what this will do is it gets us the codes that they actually earned by taking their contribution count. And that's great because it's not tied to a user. Like users don't get special privileges. They have X number of contributions, which qualifies them for X discount codes. And that's perfect. So then in what we need to do then in get missing tags is we have the customer. So we're going to start by doing just a call to get their earned codes, which we can swap out, earned codes, which we can do by swapping out for get earned codes. And so then we need to use their existing orders to filter. And the way that we get the existing orders is going to be to...
We already have the orders.
We already have the orders, but we have to do that filtering to figure out whether or not the code is used.
Yeah. So we need to get into return code status and pull out this part.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I'm just going to pull this up there. Oh, God, what's it called again?
Missing tags, I think, yeah.
What is it? Okay, that down to new tags.
And so at this point, we have an array of the codes that match. And so we then need to use
an array of the codes that match?
Like the ones that meet the threshold. And so
that's the earned codes.
Right.
Yeah.
And what we haven't done is what starts on 192, which is where we turn it into data about the customer. And so this...
Mapping the earned codes.
Right.
Yes, we can rewrite all of this.
Well, let's get it working and then we'll refactor.
Yes. Mapping over earned codes.
So then we determine the new tags by, oh, but you know what we're missing is we need to get the used codes, which is at the top of that return line 185.
Yes.
Okay. Then down in 204, I think you can get rid of that return code status because we. So yeah, we're gonna map, and then we're
We're
checking against the
mapping over this anymore.
we'd be mapping over earn code status. And we have our code info is what we were calling used codes. No, it's not. Discount.code. Where are we getting the discount from? Discount is discount.code. Object.code, earn status codes. Tags. Oh, so maybe we don't need to change that at all. Yeah, no, that's right. That's right.
Oh my god, I just lost it. So wait, earn code status now has
The original resort. Yeah, so we basically just broke this up into pieces.
yes.
So get earned codes and the line start 181 to 184 is what used to be the get return code status. And so what comes back then, we map over the same as we were doing before, and that results in our array of tags to add to the customer, and that's what we want. So we can, if you want, we can actually just test this.
Okay. With an existing.
I think if you use my GitHub username, it should try to add the level 2 because I think we fixed that. So you'll have to add. Let's see, in the schema it was. So we refactored. So it's going to be get contributor, and then under contributor, there's a Shopify kind of grouping or a type.
So we'll want to get Shopify.
Shopify, and then under Shopify, there's a new tags. And new tags is what we're actually trying to get to make sure that this works.
Okay, so we want Shopify.
I think you got to refresh to get the new.
Yep. Let's just also get tags.
Yep. So that's still working. That's good. If you want to be. Yeah, so this is good. We've got it working. So let's clean up after ourselves. I think we got an orphan function now.
We got a lot of crap.
we can, let's
Is this
see.
default? I don't remember why we had this.
That was just, we were thinking out loud, so you can delete that as well. And
Get Shopify discount codes.
so this, we can refactor to be, we could take so we've got the get earned codes. We could refactor out the mapping part to be get used codes and just take the orders and
We're also going to need earned codes.
yes. So yeah, earn codes and used codes actually, because it looks like we're
getting used codes.
We're getting used codes, and so that would be all
so
codes.
That's what's going to happen here. Oops.
Right. And so that relies on used codes. So we would just need to pass in the used codes and
So we just need to move this out, right? And then we'll just get used codes the way we get earned codes here.
Well, yeah. So what we're getting earned codes, and then we're just turning the array of orders into an array of discount codes.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I think, like we can put that logic wherever we want. It seems like maybe so either way we have to get the orders through. So we can get the orders through as orders, or we can get the orders through as an array of discount codes. I think
that's the only thing we have any use for out of the orders.
That's true. So, I mean, we could even do it in get customer, and just skip the part where we return the orders and instead just return the array of used codes.
Where?
It's get Shopify customer. And then down at the bottom, we just return the orders and the tags. But what we could do instead is we could just filter that orders object and just return the codes. Or I guess map it the way that we do for used codes down below.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And then we won't get orders anymore in line 175.
Is codes clear enough here?
Let's call them used codes. I think let's just be super explicit about that. Okay. And so
now we have it. Yep. Okay. That makes sense.
And then if we move out the logic in 177 to 180 to a helper, or really, this maybe should, I'm wondering now if we should just do that logic right up in the get Shopify customer. Is there any value to not doing that?
You mean do this up here?
Mm-hmm. And just return it back as the objects that say what the code was and whether or not it was used.
So this would be earned codes status. I'm just gonna fill this in later.
No. This is not going to work because then we got to pull all of that logic back up. Because then we're pulling out. Well, shit, I don't know. I mean, because this would mean we've got to pull up 176 through 179 into create the get Shopify customer. So it would mean putting all of that up above. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but now I guess the question then becomes: is it better to have helper functions that parse data and like separate functions that load data, where we're kind of separating our concerns, or is it better to have, you know what I mean? Like, is it better to have like a bunch of little helpers that just do the things that we want them to do that are then composable?
That tends to be my preference.
That also tends to be my preference. And so that, I think it's okay to do the filtering out for used codes because we're just getting rid of cruft in the object that we don't use. I don't think we should put them in, I would say we wouldn't want to put them in any further logic in that get Shopify customer. So then that means that the earned codes,
The status of earned codes.
right?
So leave this here, or we could extract it.
Do we use it again when we do the get, what was it? Get Shopify discount codes. So that was kind of why we started refactoring this, is that get Shopify discount codes uses the same logic. And so then I think what we'd be looking at is so this is now broken because we just removed orders from the customer object that gets returned.
Yes.
And so this has to be refactored. And the way that we would refactor that is by take
this out.
And potentially even 175 as well. And then because what we've got is we've got used codes and we've got a contribution count. And that's what we need to execute 175 through 179.
No, because getting earned codes separately. No, wait. No, I'm just getting turned around.
Because we're going to need to do
for the case where there's not a Shopify account created.
Right. And so in this,
we can use it internally. Okay.
Yeah. And so I think what we're going to end up doing is having another helper that kind of bundles this up so that we can reuse it.
So we need contribution count.
And used codes. And then we would just return that.
And this would be I'm getting to the point where I see the word earned, and I know it's spelled right, but it doesn't feel right.
You've looked at the word so much now that it doesn't make sense anymore.
Yes. So that needs contribution count and used codes.
Okay.
And then here we can just do
And then customer.codes or customer.used codes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so let's validate that. Let's add an extra line after 178. And I think that puts us in pretty good shape here. So let's just try it. Let's run get missing tags again, make sure that our logic still works. Okay, and then let's, in a new tab, we can do a query for the customer discount codes. Or where does this get called? It just gets called in as part of the get customer resolver, is that right? Get Shopify discount codes get called as part of create contributor, which is challenging because we have
well, because we haven't written an update contributor yet, right?
Right. And that's, well, did we need an update contributor? Because we just wrote add new tags. Like that's kind of what the update is adding new tags. Everything else is pulled real time when you get. Because the only variable information that you store after you create your Prisma account, or after we create the contributor in Prisma, the customer ID won't change, their email won't change, their GitHub username won't change.
At least for the current case of the scope of the store, no.
Yeah, at some point we will have editing features, but that's way out of the scope of what we're doing today.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, the only thing that would require an update that's not just pulled in real time from GitHub or Shopify is adding those tags. And so we've got the update or add tags to Shopify customer mutation, which is defined in resolvers on 133. And that's the only mutation that we should need. So, well, creating a contributor obviously is the other mutation that we would need.
We can delete this now, right?
Yep, it's no longer used.
Yeah.
Hooray!
Hooray!
And then I just noticed when we started looking at add tags to Shopify customer that right above it on line 125, we are now returning the completely incorrect shape for our create customer object. So that needs to match our new contributor shape, which I think we'll get from the query up above. Yeah, the get contributor call. So we're loading GitHub, we're loading, and then we have the custom resolvers. So for those, we need to do wait, is that just going to work though? Because we've got the contributor resolver set up. So Shopify should just work because we're going to send back the Shopify customer ID. We don't need to send the needs update anymore. Oh man, we need to do some cleanup. Yeah. So.
Yeah, this child resolver stuff is the part where you start losing me.
Yes. So the child resolvers, to try to kind of do a conceptual model of this, maybe I draw on the whiteboard. So let's do this. I will blow up my
I'm gonna
screen.
stop sharing.
Yeah, so let me do this. I'll show a webcam. So on the Twitch stream, I can see what's going on. And then I'm gonna erase all of this so that we've got some areas to see. So let's do this. When we are looking at this, we've got, like in our schema, we have, let's say, type person. And in this type, we have a name, and then let's say that we have their website. And so the name is going to be a string, and then their website is going to be a type of website. And that's their whole type. And then we get to the website, and down here maybe we have, for easy, let's say the URL. And the way that this would work in like a typical object is that you would just return back, you know, the person's object would be like name, and that's me. And then down here we would do website, and that would be another object. And in here we would have URL, and that would be a URL. And so if we returned this to this GraphQL resolver, the way that it would read that is it would go, okay, so I've got a name, and then in the website, so it's looking here for a field that matches. So it looks for name, and it finds name. And because that's there, it returns it. And then it looks for website, and it finds website, and then it knows that that's a website type, so it resolves down to the website type, and it looks for URL, and it finds URL, and it knows that's supposed to be a string, so it returns this string. And so that's kind of the structure of a GraphQL resolver. But so what we can do then is we can say, well, we have a custom resolver, and our custom resolver, instead of saying that this is a, like maybe our object that comes back doesn't have the URL. And so what we would do instead then, like maybe this object just has my name in it. So then in my custom resolver, I've got my query resolver, and the query resolver is going to have a, like, I don't know, get person or something. That part doesn't really matter. But then we define a custom resolver, and in custom resolver, we're going to define one for person. And underneath person, I can say that when you find the website, I want you to run a custom function. And so that custom function gets back whatever the initial value to person was, which in this case would be this object with name in it. And so if we look at it like that, we just call it data as kind of a shortcut. And then down here, I can have it do literally anything I want. So I can say, like, you know, if data.name is JSON, go to my database and look up websites that are owned by data.name, and then bring back that result and then return it. You can do like unlimited business logic in these custom resolvers. And then when we return that, whatever we return will be the value of website. And as long as the value returned from this function matches the type expected by the website type in GraphQL, it'll display it. And custom resolvers resolve with a higher specificity than an object. So if we have our type person gets a name and a website, and this data object, like my say my database lookup for people, returns a name and a website, and that would fulfill it on its own, but then I define a custom resolver. That custom resolver would take precedence over the website property of this object. And so that way, if you, for example, have a database and that database has some legacy data, but you were to want to migrate to like an updated way of managing it, you could do it incrementally. So you could say like, well, we're still going to keep like the customer data over there, but we want to move their their web properties or whatever to this new database. And so you define a custom resolver, which means that now everything under this custom resolver is coming from wherever you want, but you didn't break your old data structure. So it's a really, really powerful way of kind of approaching that. I don't know how. I just realized that like some of what I was writing was off screen, so I apologize to everyone who's watching. But so did that make sense? Okay. And is there anything that I can go into more depth on to make it clearer? Okay, awesome. And then do you want to start sharing again and we'll switch back over?
Okay. And so this is everything that we wrote yesterday.
Yes. Or whatever day it was that we did this.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So then to just kind of pull that, everything we just talked about on the whiteboard over to more practical things. In our schema, we define, I think you got the schema open on the right, it looks like.
It's hidden by this share bar.
Ah, okay. So if we look at the contributor type returns a Shopify info type under Shopify. Mm-hmm. And so what we're doing is we're basically saying, if you look at the main query resolver, we have create contributor, or yeah, actually let's look at get contributor because that one's actually reformatted. So under get contributor, we return the contributor details, which is the stuff that's in Prisma, their email, their GitHub username, and their Shopify customer ID, which may or may not be null. And we return that object plus if they're a contributor, or if they're plus their GitHub info. And so the GitHub info that we return matches the GitHub info type in the schema, which is 54 to 58. Mm-hmm. But we don't return Shopify. So this would fail if we just returned it like we do, but we defined a custom contributor resolver, and that's going to be down below mutation here. Yeah. And we say for the Shopify field in the contributor type, run this special query, or run this special logic, and then it provides the Shopify info type of ID and count, and then
in the case of no Shopify customer.
Right, exactly. But you'll also notice that we don't return everything that's required or everything that's there, so we don't return tags or codes or new tags. So, and we return count, which isn't actually used. So then in Shopify info, we use the count, which got passed down through the data, because the argument to codes is the argument returned from Shopify. So mm-hmm. that data has a data.id, a data.needsUpdate, and a data.count. And so we pass that down basically. And then we're able to do the logic that we need to do to send back the proper data so that Shopify info ends up with ID tags, codes, and new tags. And so it's basically a way of like encapsulating logic so that you're not trying to return these monolithic data objects, despite the fact that GraphQL is returning like huge monolithic data objects. So with that being said, what we're going to be able to do then is, so we get the Shopify discount codes for the contributor, and we return those for get contributor as well. And so when we do a search for get contributor, that should, if we query for the codes, it should give us back the data that we need to verify that that's working.
In here.
Yep. And then we need to check if it's used or...
Oh. Yep.
Yep, so that's still working. That's good. And that's what we wanted. So that means that our get Shopify custom or get Shopify discount code refactor didn't break anything. Then I think that was the first major thing. So now that we've got that whole refactor done so that everything that we've already written still works, now we can do the thing that we initially set out to do, which is refactor that hard-coded tag creation in here.
Yep.
Which we should be able to do, I think, by just passing the total contributions from 29 into our new helper.
Into earned codes.
Well, so we're gonna get it back as tags, but we can do that by running like get. Yeah, so we're gonna get the earned codes, and then we're gonna have to filter those down to just be the tags from the customer.
So we do need to get the earned codes.
Mm-hmm. And that should be total contributions.
That's it. And then map that. And we want to...
So take a look at the codes that we're getting.
Yes, well, which will be code, threshold, and tag, and we just want to return the tag. Right?
Mm-hmm. So you could actually just destructure
I don't want to call this code, though.
Well, you can actually just destructure it out.
Oh, yeah. And we can just...
And then you'll have to wrap that destructured tag in a parentheses there. And you're there's an extra parentheses in front of the return tag. And that should be it. And what you've actually done there is gotten your tags, so you can actually just call that tags, because it's just the array of tags.
And that should be what we want.
Should be what we want. Let's see. Maybe we can go to Prisma and drop a record for either you or me, and then run it again against our GitHub username to make sure that's working.
Customers.
Well, this is going to be in Prisma, not in Shopify, because we gotta drop that Prisma record.
I'm not sure I have that.
Okay, let me.
Maybe. Do you want me to just hand it to you?
Yeah, let's do that. Here we've got that, and I'm going to jump in here. We've got my user, and I will just delete my user. And in refreshing that leaves us with my user is gone. And with that, you should be able to take back over.
Okay. And so now we want to create you.
Yeah, so you can just do it with my GitHub username. And then the Shopify customer is still going to exist. So you'll want to put in like my name plus some gibberish.
Like
Yeah.
that kind of gibberish.
And any kind of gibberish. And then at Gatsby.js.
How about that? That should be your actual email.
Yep, and then let's get the full object back just to make sure that everything we want is coming back the way we want. And that one's got subfields.
Sure. Oh. Why not?
Keeps going.
Why not?
And then you may want to put the Shopify above the GitHub just for the sake of not burying it under all of my pull request info. Yeah, let's do it.
Contribution count is undefined.
All right.
Contribution count.
Contribution count.
148.
And that's in Webpack, so that might not be exactly accurate, but let's take a look and just see. We probably just forgot to. No, it wouldn't be, or I guess it might be. Cannot read contribution count of undefined. There's only 2 instances of contribution count.
Yeah, in the resolver file. Yeah.
Okay, so it's got to be the other one then. And that means that our contributor data is not including GitHub, which means that we want to go to the create contributor. Oh, I know why, because we didn't refactor the create contributor object. So if we, yeah, we're returning the old style.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great.
Which is the whole thing we set out to do, and then we just got distracted.
Boom. Okay. So we need to get rid of this.
Yeah. I'm gonna take a quick break. I'll be back in like 2 minutes. Just if you want to keep refactoring this, and I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back.
Um, right. So we're no longer needing to return these Shopify.
Let's see. We still need to, yeah, we would still want to get the customer ID. So we still need to return some of that stuff because we have to return it for the Shopify custom resolver to be able to do the things that it needs to do. So yeah, the Shopify customer ID needs to come through. I don't know if the orders need to come through because I think those are going to get loaded elsewhere.
Yeah, so we weren't getting the GitHub.
Well, we are loading it. We just aren't using it right now. So it's up on 108 where we're destructuring. That's the GitHub object. So we can just bring that
Okay,
back to be the GitHub object.
that's what I was overlooking. So get contributor info. We're calling that. Where's that? No, here. That's what I was looking for. Okay, so all we need to do is return we need to get this out, but we also just need the full object.
Yeah, so we did something here that we renamed it from total contributions to contribution count. So we need to include, we need basically like, we need to return that object and then just name contribution count and put total contributions in as its value, and then return pull requests as well. So you can destructure it to be total contributions and pull requests, or you could drop it back into, oh yeah, that too. And that would be under GitHub. Yeah. Contribution count.
Yep. Okay.
And then the codes, I don't know that we need those anymore because those are being pulled out.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the Shopify custom resolver because I think that's being loaded there.
Customer ID.
Right, and then that goes into Shopify info and it grabs the codes and all that stuff. So
we don't need this anymore.
Yeah, we don't need that one anymore. We send through the contribution count. Yeah,
and we're not using this.
We're not using that. So we can drop that. Yeah, let's give it a save and see what happens.
Do I need to reload this again?
I don't think so. I think you can just try it. Cannot read property ID of null. Shopify customer ID. We send through. Okay.
Oh, we don't need this anymore.
Nope.
At tags.
Tags. Okay, let's take a look at the
Oh,
tags.
so this is in Shopify GraphQL.
We must either have already created the customer, which now we've kind of got the other error handling that we need to do. Actually, check your console. Did it log our errors object like we were hoping it would? No? Cannot read property ID of null. That's not really, because it should have logged an object that said errors, which means that it's not logging the way we wanted it to. I think in the meantime, maybe just try that query again, but with a different email address.
GitHub username.
Okay. So then I'm just going to flip over to Prisma real quick and delete this user again.
Okay.
So let me delete that node, and my user should be good to go. So go ahead and try it one more time. Okay, so the problem is at create Shopify customer. And so we have and the ID that we're missing is in where?
This is.
So we're still not getting the right info back.
Should we log data.data here?
Yeah, let's log response dot data and see what comes out. And I guess I'll flip over and delete that user one more time, because the Prisma user is getting created. Or well, maybe not. Hold on. Oh, that time the user didn't even get created. So let's try it and let's see what comes out.
Customer create, customer null.
So we want, and there's no errors in there? Just the extensions? Let's see if there's a response.errors.
If there was.
Yeah, it should be in there, right? Maybe it's .error, like singular. Let me see if anything got created in here.
Don't see it.
Okay. So the part that I am wondering about here is what else. Let's see. Let me take a look at Axios. Axios response format should always follow, I think, the same. Let's see. So it gives us response.status, response.status text. Maybe we can try that. Yeah, and then there's another one that's called status text. So it gave us 200. That's maybe maybe this is a Shopify API thing. So let's look up the create customer or the customer create mutation on Shopify's API docs. Because remember on the other one, the like add tags, there was a whole error field.
Mm-hmm. User errors.
Yeah, so let's add that and see what comes out. Customer user errors. Let's maybe just grab that whole thing and, and just see what we get out of the object, because maybe there's something there that we're not.
What? Okay. Wow. And
That would just, yeah, right there. And we can drop one of those duplicate customer ID. All right, so let's give that a shot. We're already logging data, so if we get errors back, it should let us know what those errors are.
Failed customer user errors doesn't exist.
Cool. So I guess their API docs must be wrong. Let's just get rid of that one then and see what happens with the user errors.
Array.
Okay, so I guess we'll have to like log that out specifically. Field email has already been taken. Oh, so that's good. So that I mean, this is great. We actually just solved one of our other problems, and we'll be able to add that error handling in after we get this done. So for now, I think if you just put in a different email, email has already been taken. Just keep on bumping those numbers.
Ooh.
And there we go. We get our user. So we got our tags. However, we have a problem because my username is there, but we lose it somewhere. And I have 59 contributions, but we ended up not showing. Or no, it adds the tags. No, okay, so that's all correct. But for some reason, my GitHub username didn't come through. So we should fix that. Oh, and that's just our fault. But you have to name it now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just username. We dropped the GitHub since it's inside the GitHub object. Okay, so now let me delete this. Excuse me. Let me delete this new user we just created in Prisma so that it doesn't give us any crap. Okay, so that's gone. So if you do another email address, it should all work accordingly now.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, so that's what we wanted. This is all correct behavior. So let's do a check for that the error handling. And we already know that what'll come back is a user errors, and the error will contain like email. So we can
So if response dot data dot data.
and we can for now just throw an Apollo error. And let's make that Apollo error contain the first error. So it would just be the what was the there's a message. So it would just be like the user errors and the first array item. You know what we could do that might make this a little bit easier? We could destructure the response object to give us like just the piece that we're actually manipulating. So it would be like const and then start destructuring and do data colon and then destructure again and data and colon and then customer create, and then you could just do colon response, and that would give you a variable called response, and you would replace it would be line 55 up there, and then that way we'd be able to do like response dot user errors, response dot customer, and then you can actually move line 65 just up to be line 55, and instead of being equals response, it'll be equals the await Axios. And that'll be a little bit, I think, more manageable. It may be worth doing like a try catch there, just in case, because that way if the request fails, like if the request goes through and there are errors, we'll catch those in user errors. But if the request outright fails, we would probably just want to throw like an Apollo error that says like there was an issue making this request. Please try again. But yeah, that's much better. And then you got to pass an error argument to catch. And in this case, we would just throw an Apollo error. So basically the same as 68.
Okay.
And the message can be something like there was an issue making this request. This one will only happen if like the server's down. So we want to There, let's make it a little more explicit. There was a problem creating. Yeah, perfect. And that'll be like, please try again is probably the best, because we can't control that. Like if the request to Shopify doesn't work, like, yeah, you just got to do it again.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we should have actual error messages. So let's try that call again with a bad email address, like one that we know is going to fail, and it should give us a useful error message now. Nope. I think we need to import Apollo error. I think that's currently only imported in resolvers.
Huh. Okay. Yep.
Okay, so that's good, but it gave us a worse error than I was expecting. Oh, you know why? Because we're throwing an Apollo error from within a try catch block. Shit. So when we get response.user errors, we throw that, which then gets caught in our try catch, and then we override the message. So we could just throw error.message in on line 79. Or sorry, like throw Apollo error.message. And let's try that again. No message. Okay, so what if on line 73 you switch that to just a regular error? So it'll still be a throw new, but instead of an Apollo error, it'll just be like a throw new error. And then the same thing, the response.user.
Object.
Are the errors are an array, aren't they?
From Shopify?
Yeah. So I think we have to pull out the first element in that array.
Oh.
I think we can.
Method.
Do you want to log it and see?
Sure.
Or I mean, yeah, let's see if that works, and if that doesn't work, then we can log it and figure out what's going on.
No.
I think it might be that the errors isn't objects or an array. So let's just do the log. And let's not do the message. Let's just do the user errors. See what comes out.
Email is okay. Field, unless so it would be message.
Yeah, but it is an array, so we would need to go to like the user errors, like array index 0, and then dot message. And that should do it, I think. Cool. So that's good. Let's try, we haven't deleted the other one, so go ahead and try a new email And it should still fail because we should get an error on the GitHub. Cannot read message of undefined.
And error messages was a blank array. An empty array. Because I'm still logging that.
Oh, which means that we would need to check that error messages has a length, because it's always going to return an array. So instead of checking if response.user errors, we need to make sure that it's an array with a length of greater than 0. Okay, so let's try that again.
And I'll bump the email again. A unique constraint would be violated. Yeah.
Okay. So that's not like the world's best error message, but we can check for it and like provide our own helpful error message.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that would be kind of how much we care about. Because there's really...
We have 9 more minutes. Is there anything else that we wanted to wrap up today?
I think let's see. So we did want to do a lookup on the person if they didn't have, like, if their account already existed, we wanted to do a lookup and like an update instead of an actual creation. Because right now when it fails, like if it fails on an email address, we should... Oh, but now this introduces some interesting stuff, because in the event... Okay, so let's think like we're evil for a second. Well, and the reason that I bring this up is that, like, theoretically there's no benefit to ever using somebody else's email address, but if somebody was being a jerk, they could sign up with somebody else's email address, and then when I logged in with my GitHub account and used my real email address, it would update somebody else's Shopify account that they theoretically couldn't update because it would be like they wouldn't be able to verify it.
But should we require that the email associated with the account is one that's associated with the GitHub username?
I mean, the easiest way to ensure that the person who is making the request is the person who should have control of it would be to use GitHub, because GitHub has already verified the username and the email address attached to it. Mm-hmm. And that cuts out a step. The downside to that would be, like, if somebody's GitHub email isn't the one they would want to make a Shopify order from.
Mm-hmm.
I can't see any real risk. I can see inconvenience.
Sorry, you mean risk to using the email associated with the GitHub account?
Yeah, like I can't see a scenario where, like, being forced to order with your GitHub email address would be a problem.
So I think I know I am pretty used to, like, if I'm logging in with GitHub, I'm kind of expecting that it's like logging in with Google or logging in with Facebook. Mm-hmm. You expect to use the associated account info.
Okay.
So what we could do is just make it the email associated with the GitHub account and show it in the form as a non-editable field.
We could do that. We could also just display it and say, like, you know, your discount codes are attached to this email address. And that would be manageable. And then we could put something on the roadmap for the future to allow somebody to set their own email, but that would require a verification step. So we'd have to let somebody do that. So Yeah. I mean, in trying to think about this more, the only way, like, what is there an attack vector there? Like, would that open somebody up to any kind of insecurity if we let them choose their own email? Because they have to be logged in with their GitHub account. And we have a constraint now where you can only have one entry per GitHub account, which means that it doesn't really matter what email you use. Your GitHub account and your contributions can only be used once. So if you tried to sign up again with a different email, it would just say, oh, that GitHub username is already spoken for.
Mm-hmm.
And so the only thing that I could think of is like, if I wanted to be a jerk to you, I could use my GitHub username and sign up using your email so that when you tried to sign up, it wouldn't let you.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be a super bizarre thing to do. But like, I still wouldn't be able to claim discount codes for you because your email address has nothing to do with the discount code. Like, that would actually make it so that you could claim my discount codes because they'd be connected to your email address in Shopify.
Mm-hmm.
So really, that would be kind of it would be a foolish way to abuse the system. And we should think about that more because I would prefer that people can choose whatever email they want. And if there's no way that the email exposes insecurities or like lets people abuse the discount codes, then I can't really think of a reason.
Well, because eventually creating an account for like a contributor dashboard, um, we would expect most people doing that to have a GitHub account, but not necessarily need to if they were more of a content creator, like some of the people on our team.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be one way to think about it.
Well, yeah, and when we get to that, like at that stage, we're looking at a different authentication system because right now authentication is completely dependent on GitHub.
Yeah.
So once we like that's a bridge that we'll have to cross later. I think in the short term though, like in the instance that we want to expand this API to allow people to like add their site showcase entries or update their creator profile on GitHub or on the Gatsby JS site.
Mm-hmm.
In that situation, we would want them to be able to update their email address. We may want to default their email to GitHub and then add a like change my email step.
Yep.
That would require email verification.
So that's actually also what I was going to say, but also if we're just leaving that whole consideration like a different auth system as just feature, people have to have a GitHub account anyway to log into this.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fair to say that we just use the email address associated with GitHub for now. Yeah. And then if we're going to extend this in a larger way later, we can do that.
Okay.
Because, I mean, if someone's logging in with their GitHub account, we can assume / hope that they have access to the email associated.
Yeah. No, that's true. I mean, if you can't access your GitHub username, I feel like that's a whole problem that's outside of our purview.
Right.
So I guess then there's a potential for inconvenience that you would prefer that your Shopify order went to a different email than your GitHub account, but ultimately it's a pretty minor inconvenience when the result is free stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think we can just do that. We'll just grab because we already get their email as part of the login. And so we'll just drop that in, and then we can do like a claim your code. And then when they claim their code, we'll just show them the email address that we used.
Mm-hmm.
And that way they know which one to use with Shopify on checkout. And I think that's okay.
Yep, I think so too.
Okay.
Before we break, can we delete this first iteration of Shopify?
Let's double check that we're not importing that file anywhere else. I don't think we are, but just do a quick check for yeah.
Testing.
Testing is okay.
And so just the Shopify file, the old Shopify file, and resolvers, and then test.
Okay.
So we can just remove it from resolvers at least.
We can remove it from resolvers. We can actually, I think we can probably delete the whole thing because we've got it in source control. And so when we get to testing, we can just refer to it, but there's no reason to keep around unused code. And like, while we're thinking about it, we should probably get rid of it because otherwise it'll live forever. And then we'd also want to get rid of the tests.
Just
double check inside of Shopify that we're not using any like mocks or anything like that. Let's see. We do have some snapshots, so we'll have to delete the snapshots as well. Or Jest might even clean that up. I don't know. We don't have time to really fix the testing, but for now you can just delete shopify.js. I think Jest will clean up its own snapshots, but we can double check that. We didn't include anything from the fixtures in here, did we? Like up at the top. And yeah, okay. So in that case, then yeah, let's just go ahead and drop this. And when we get to the testing part, this will probably cause us some heartache, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Cool. Okay. I think this is good to commit, and we can probably call this a day. We still need to do the customer lookup and creation. So basically today ended up being mostly refactoring, but I feel a little more confident about the code base now. It feels a little more like done. Yeah, and then we'll go and do we'll do that next time, and then we'll do tests, and then we'll learn our lesson, and henceforth try to do more testing, like as part of the process instead of trying to leave it all till the end. Because I think it's gonna be a little rough, because like it was tested when we started, and then we started ripping things out and not running tests in between, and I think we're gonna pay the price for that, but it's okay. We'll get it fixed. We'll get it running, and we will get back to having like a pretty well tested API. Cool. Anything else we need to do before we commit this up?
I don't think so.
All right, let's rock and roll, I guess.
Okay, so yeah, I'll commit it and push it up.
Cool. All right, let me shut down the stream here. Thanks to everybody for watching along, and we'll schedule another one of these. When? I don't know. I leave for. We may have to do this async because I'm going to be at like conferences all next week, and then we've got company travel coming up after that, and then it's the holiday. So I don't think we should wait until the new year to finish this. Yeah. So yeah, let's do this async. We'll just commit our changes into that work in progress PR. So anybody who's been following along with the work, you can follow along at our work in progress PR, which is here. It's number 17 on the api.gatsbyjs.org. All the work we've done thus far has been committed up, so you can kind of see what we're thinking about, what we've been struggling with and fixing. And Amberley's changes from today will go up shortly. And we'll hopefully finish these up over the next couple of weeks. Thanks, everybody.